Hello, let me this way welcome you on our next webinar. Within this one, as it's pretty clear from its name, we will cover all the features that were added to MyQ's products, MyQ Roger and MyQ X, as part of the year 2022. So basically, we will go on the route when we will recap all these features that were either added throughout this year or features we have developed in 2022 and features that are now available for you and your customers, basically helping them to print and scan much easier. So let's quickly look at our agenda. Like I said, it will be a complete recap of the most important features that are appearing as part of our products. So we will first start with the MyQ Roger, first a little bit explaining its philosophy, then we will go through the main highlights of the last year, the main important features of MyQ Roger that were added, followed by the second part about our main old product MyQ X, when we'll again cover everything new which has been added and will be released as part of the new MyQ 10.1 release, which you can expect in a few weeks. There are two more topics I would like to cover as part of today's webinar, and that's the new software assurance options and the MyQ Training Center update, a minor update, but potentially with a huge impact. Before I will go into the actual presentation, I will also like to encourage you to use the QA session, which you will probably see in the top right corner of your screen. By clicking on the icon, you can send us any question you will have, basically anything that interests you about the topics we will be going through. At the end of today's session, I will try to answer as many of those. And then, of course, we will again issue a full summary of all questions and answers. So if you will not be able to stay with us for the QA session, you can then, read them completely and just check those that interest you. But let's not waste our time and start with the first topic, and that is a MyQ Roger. Now, as you will know, MyQ Roger as a printing solution. But what I would like to start with here is something more about the way how it was designed, because it's not actually like MyQ X in the cloud. It's a completely different product with a completely different approach, and that's the thing I just would like to highlight here as part of this introduction. Before we will get there, that's the first feature that's been added as part of the last year. Now, as you know, we just celebrated a second birthday last year, and one of the gifts we have given to you and us as well is that we opened a new data center in America. So now for perfect coverage, we have two data centers, one in Europe, one in the US. An important message to those that are really concerned about data security: those two data centers are not interconnected. So if you are running your business in the European Union, everything is covered by the EU data boundary. So you don't have to be worried about, sharing your data with America, and vice versa, of course. So like I said, those two data centers are completely independent and are able to cover the whole world. You don't have to worry if you are on a data center in America that it wouldn't work in Europe. On the opposite, it's actually designed to cover everything whenever you are, so you'll be able to copy, print, and scan just by logging into the machine supporting MyQ Roger. So now, like I said, something about a philosophy to explain the two main approaches we would like to use on the market. First one, the concept which we have started with, is the so-called mobile-first concept. Now, as you probably guessed, that means that we would like to really utilize the mobile application, meaning that the main story behind all this is that you should be able to work whenever you are, without actually being limited by anything than your connection to the network and by being connected to the MFD. There are a few more things, like an option that you don't even need MFD if you've got a mobile app. So, for example, when you are on the road and you just want to, for example, scan the receipts from the hotel or from some reception when you were, you can simply do it in your phone, scan it using a camera, it gets processed by the OCR, and you can just then upload it to your OneDrive or Google Drive, and then later you can print it or send it to your accountant to make sure that everything is done properly and you have not lost any important receipt you needed. But that will be just part about the working with the mobile app. The more important part when it comes to this concept is the concept of printing and scanning using the OneDrive. So what do we have here? Now, first, an important thing is that the whole solution is designed the way that you should not be actually having your files stored anywhere locally, on any hard drive, on any server. So basically, it's a completely serverless concept. Nothing will stop you from using MyQ Roger because you don't have to install anything on your computers. You don't need to have anything like a pseudo server installed in your network. That's completely out. Instead of that, the MyQ Roger covers everything directly from the cloud. So that way you can use your OneDrive and a Google Drive basically as your print queue. So whatever you like to print, you just have to upload it to your OneDrive or Google Drive, and it will be directly accessible from the printer. As you can see from the little picture here, on your OneDrive, which I use as an example here, the system will create a, set of folders and subfolders, which will actually act as your default scan destination and your printing queue. Now, when it comes to the scanning options, that is maybe one more important thing, that you don't have to really use only these, but instead of that, directly from the panel of the MFD or directly from your mobile application, you can browse the cloud storage and basically store your files whenever you want. Now back to the printing concept. Well, like I said, your cloud storage acts as your print queue. So whenever you're either on the road or in front of a machine, you can just browse your cloud storage, and whatever you fancy can be immediately sent for print just by swiping to the right, basically confirming that the file should be printed. Now, as you can see here on the slide, there's also a small little icon of a cloud containing two additional cloud storages, and that is a box and a Dropbox. Now, these two are there in a case that you are using a mobile application. And when it comes to the mobile application, I just would like to highlight that it's available completely for free, and anyone can just download it using the Google Play or the App Store for your iOS. Now, when you do, you can just connect to the application, connect to the tenant. You can even use the personal one, which is available for public. And from that moment, you can manage everything using your phone. Back to the box and a Dropbox. Like I said, we're using the cloud storages for managing your print jobs. But now these two, the box and the Dropbox, which are available as part of the mobile application, allowing you again to upload your files into your standard print queue, which, like I said before, will be on your OneDrive and Google Drive. That way, if you use the system, you can just print very much from whenever you are. You can just go to your branch, which could be in LA, then move to Europe, go to London, and print it on another machine, simply just by scanning a QR code using your mobile application. Because as it is in the cloud, you are basically covering your queue. You are having it with you whenever you are. Just a connection to the internet is required. That will be our main concept. Like I said, everything should be about the mobile application, where you do not need anything else than your mobile and the MFD. But of course, there are customers where this option is simply not applicable. Simply for that reason that, for example, your users are not allowed to use a phone in the office, or they are not provided with a company phone. So even these users should be able to print. And for these, there are a few options I would like to highlight. We can use a device pooling, a feature which is similar to the MyQ X feature of the same name. Basically, when you are pooling everything on the encrypted hard drive of your MFD, where it's stored securely, waiting for the user to authenticate and release the job. At the same time, you can combine that some users that, for example, are working from the home office can be using the universal print. That way, whenever they are, without using a VPN or any other secured connection, they can just simply print. And again, when they are back in the office, they will authenticate on the machine, either using their mobile phone or using a PIN, password, or card, and release their jobs they have sent from their home office. Another situation is then when it comes to users that are sitting in the office, but you don't want them to actually send anything into the cloud, and you prefer to have everything local. That's actually an option that's been added on request from the market, where that could be a customers where they do not want to utilize everything through the cloud, but would like to keep everything on a low profile and having that in their network. And that's exactly what the MyQ Roger client is doing, and I will explain that as we will go on. There's one last thing I have not yet mentioned, because even for these users that do not have the option of using the mobile phone, we have prepared the option to use the cloud storages, provided that the employer will allow them to do it. So even these users then can connect their OneDrive, because that will be the most common one for the company, or the Google Drive if you allow them to use the private options, and then they can just go to the machine, browse through the cloud storage, and again, print directly through it. Another option might be that they will just use the default queues that are created on the cloud storage and upload their files there. So that was about the concept. Now let's focus on the news we have prepared for you. The first one is the new embedded terminal. As you've probably noticed that in the past we had only two. We covered the Kyocera and the HP. Now, as part of the 2022 release, we have released a new embedded terminal on Ricoh Smart SDK devices. And there's actually a new highlight which this one brings when it's released, and that's the practical remote installer app. So for example, if we are working with the HP, you can easily install the application using the HP Command Center. But that option was not available on Ricoh, so our developers prepared a special installer that allows you to not only identify the devices in your network, install the client, but more important, it also allows you to immediately set the connection to the tenant of MyQ Roger. So through that app, you can just install everything in the matter of minutes, and the solution will be ready to go, as you will see right now. So we've got our Ricoh here, and we can easily install the application and make it ready for the user to start working with it. And as you can see, it's using our new UI where the user can not only scan everything, but as you can see, they can also browse their OneDrive, Google Drive, or potentially, if the universal print is connected, they can also check the universal print queue and release the jobs there. Another option, another thing that has been added as part of MyQ Roger is the new desktop client. I've already briefly touched that throughout my introduction. So when it comes to that, this is actually for those users that do not like, or like I said, the initial concept of MyQ Roger is that everything should be done through a cloud. But there are users and customers that do not like that option, and despite that files would never actually leave their network, they would not leave their cloud storage, they would prefer to print directly within their local network. And for these customers, we have developed exactly this application, which can be installed on a user's computer. It will grab the file and send it directly to the machine upon the user's authentication. When it comes to this application, we've also thought about the way how to deploy it, because now it can be easily done either through the domain policies, or as we are talking about a cloud-based application, a Microsoft Intune would be the best solution to deploy your clients to all your computers. Now then, what the user can do to authenticate with the client is, first, they can either use the authentication using the MS Azure AD, or there are other options. They can sign in with MyQ. So for example, if this should be a computer that is shared by multiple users, you can use the first option. You can sign in directly with a Google or Microsoft, again, that will use the MS Azure authentication. Or, as you can see, like on a printer, you can just scan the QR code, log into the app, and from that moment, you can print. To print, the application uses the standard drivers that are basically sending everything to localhost. So you are just modifying the standard port and everything goes there. What the application is doing, it will just get the file, analyze it, encrypt it, and store it locally on the hard drive. Then it will generate a metadata file that is sent to the tenant, allowing the user to come to the machine, where the machine will communicate with the tenant, get the location of the file, which can then be safely sent to the MFD. Now, the advantage of this option is that multiple users can also be using the very same computers. As the files are encrypted, we simply can just log out and another user can log in and send another file. So this will be an ideal solution, for example, for libraries where the computer is shared and you need to be able to identify who's the owner of the file. What's the other thing? Now, as part of our updates of the year 2022, we have also improved the accounting, which is part of MyQ Roger. So let me just quickly cover the options which we have now. First, you are able to define a currency and a price list. Now, as you can see, it's almost identical to the price list you can see in our older product, the MyQ X. So you can define the price per printing, copying, scanning, or fax operations. On top of that, there's an option to define a price per paper sheet. So for every used sheet of paper, the price can be as well increased. And of course, it covers the European formats like A4 or A3, or the Americans like the letter, ledger, or folio. Now, when the price list is prepared, it will be automatically assigned to all your machines. And then when you've got all your machines activated, the system also gives you a perfect overview of all these devices. So you can see which machine is connected, how many pages were printed on that machine, or even which login methods are used on that specific device. So there'll be, for example, a machine that will be using the low frequency Bluetooth. You will just easily see it right from this screen. And it's not only on the part, because what logically should come with the accounting is the reporting. Now, when it comes to that, there are two options or two levels which we are currently offering to our customers. The first one is the admin level reports via Tenant Web UI, where you can generate your reports like you can see here. So that could be, for example, reports per users or reports per devices. At the same time, each user that is able or allowed to use a mobile app can see their personal reports in that already mentioned app. So they can just select the specific months that interest them, and then they can see what's been printed, how much it costs them, or even on which machines they've been doing that. One of my last releases I would like to mention as part of MyQ Roger is the new dashboard. That's basically a release that's been part of our January release of this year, which included a completely redesigned UI. And the most significant part is the new dashboard. So when it comes to that, not only that we have reorganized the options when it comes to the admin menu, but more important, we have added some perfect overviews of what is happening in the system. So if the admin is interested in, for example, the ratio between the prints and scans, or how many active printers they have, or how many users are using the solution, they can just look here. They don't have to go to reports. They can just go to the dashboard and check what's been new. And like in MyQ X, the MyQ Roger focuses on personalization. So as you've probably guessed, you are able to simply reorganize and change your screen to match your needs. So you can simply just get all the possible widgets that we have designed for you, and then just put them into your location, make them smaller, make them larger, delete those that you don't want to see, basically adjust the screen exactly as you would like to have it. And that's actually one of the last things when it comes to MyQ Roger. So let's now focus on the topic number 2, the MyQ X version 10.1. As you can see, as part of this webinar, I will mostly speak about the latest release 10.1, which you can expect in the following weeks. I know the webinar is called that we revisit the 2022 milestones, but it's actually one of the greatest ones we have achieved as part of that year, because the version 10.1 has been released throughout that year, and that's why we have to highlight all the greatest features here. Starting with the topic which we have ended as part of MyQ Roger, we will start with the same topic with MyQ X, because same way, like for the MyQ Roger, we have touched and redesigned the UI. Now, the first thing you can notice is that now it looks much better when it comes to the big screens. The reason for that is that we're no longer using a static, but instead of a vector graphics. So even on a large screen, everything is sharp and smooth. Everything looks perfect the way it should be. And again, the biggest change is related to the actual dashboard. Now, of course, you can use the very basic dashboard which you get into the system, but instead of that, because that wouldn't be a fun, instead of that, you can just simply design it. Like, for example, one of the main widgets that appears on the screen is the quick setup guide. Handy tool. It will definitely help you throughout the installation. Basically, you will be able to check all the boxes to make sure that the solution is running. But it's one of the widgets which you will probably not need after you've done. So when you will resolve all these points, when everything is done and set, it will just change now into the status like see that everything is done and the system is ready to go. And logically, you would not need such a widget. So instead of that, we can just simply remove it and replace it with some nice graphs showing us, again, how much we print, how much users do the copies, how much they scan. It's a perfect graph, which you can, of course, adjust. Then you would like to know what's happening in your system. So system status will be, of course, another one. And as we've mentioned, the reports, you can, of course, add additional ones with different options, and you can even adjust them. So, for example, like here, you can see your top active devices. Like here, we've got top 15 of the devices used in our system. Then you would like to, of course, focus on the environmental impact of how much carbon dioxide you've produced, how much energy it costed you, or potentially how much trees fell for your printing. So if you are really interested in these things, the environmental impact stuff can be directly on your dashboard. You don't really have to go into the reports. But of course, if you would like to, later, you can just go to a tool for designing your own reports, and even all these environmental impact reports are there, with much more details. Another thing could be about the license status. Or I don't know, we can replace those with the information about potential issues with our machines. So for example, to clearly see which machines miss the paper, where the toner needs to be replaced. Simply, you can design the screen the way you need it, the way you like it. And you can just do it easily, even thanks to our new looks. Like you can see the default blue, red, the dark mode, or high contrast for those that would, need it. That was the first topic, the option to design your own dashboard and a completely redesigned UI. Another option, another important thing that came with this release is the synchronization from the Azure AD. Now, you know that in previous versions of the systems, you were able to synchronize all your users from the Azure AD. So basically, if you were moving into the cloud, you could synchronize everything with MyQ. But that was one really annoying thing, that you have to use a secure LDAP with a public IP, and you needed domain services to be activated, which was kind of annoying, potentially even expensive. But you can now forget that completely, because with this version 10.1, we are using the MS Graph API to simply synchronize everything directly without using the LDAP protocol. So that way, it doesn't matter if you are using a server on a local network or, again, in the cloud, you can simply synchronize all your users directly to our system, and it will be super easy using the, like I said, the Microsoft Graph API. Now, when it comes to the options which are there, don't worry, it will be a little bit technical, but I will just go through it quickly. When you will define the connection, there are a few things that are worth highlighting. First one is the sign-in with Microsoft, which will allow you to directly use your local account just to sign in into MyQ and start using it immediately. So you don't have to provide your username or password. You can just hit the sign in with Microsoft button and it will let you in immediately. You can then, as an admin, of course, set which users will be imported, either if you would like to get all users, or you can just select a specific group that should be imported. And when it comes to user properties, you've got the basic details like the username and the password, the username and the alias, for which you can use either the user principal name or just its prefix to get the exact name of the user you would like to use. On top of that, as you've probably expected, you can import your card, PIN, and personal number. And when it comes to the groups, again, you can either get all of those or specify groups that you do not want to have here, or in a case there are more of those, you can just simply use a filtering option just to avoid those groups that you don't want to have in your system. An important message also is that we can now work with the Azure AD, but that would not mean that you would not be able to use all the other options we had there before. So together with the Azure AD, you can also import all your users using the LDAP server. So all the on-premise ADs, the Lotus Domino, Novel eDirectory, or any open LDAP can be again and still imported to all your installations of MyQ. So that way you can combine all these sources to get all your users from all your systems, like you can see here from this slide. Another option when it comes to the communication is the hybrid cloud multi-server. Now, previously, if you wanted to have everything controlled from the central server that was installed in a cloud-based environment, for example, in the Microsoft Azure, you needed a VPN tunnel to be able to communicate with your local sites. Now, this is no longer required as part of this release. You can simply, without a VPN, connect to the central server, which is up there in the cloud, and you are good to go. And another thing which is really important for those who crave for perfection, those that would like to have everything secured end to end, to make sure no one can peek through our job. Now that could be a little bit deceiving because even in the past, we were just telling you that we can do it. And of course, that was right. That's just minor thing that has changed, but minor thing with a huge impact. Now, a little recap. When it comes to printing from the user station to the server, you could use the IPPS or HTTPS job transfer using the MDC client. Also, when it came to release to the devices, you could use the IPPS job transfer as well. When it came to the actual server, in a previous version of the system, there was an option to use your locally installed certificate to generate a key to secure database. And now with version 10.1, there's one more option, and that's related to print jobs. In the previous versions of MyQ X, it was actually a responsibility of our customers to take care about the encryption of their hard drive and their print jobs. Now they can still do that, but now in MyQ X, we've got one more option, almost similar to the one we use for the system database, and that is the option to encrypt all your print jobs that are stored locally, again, by the certificate that is locally installed, based on which MyQ will generate its specific key and encrypt all your locally stored print jobs. And of course, all your scan jobs are automatically encrypted as well, provided that those are stored on the hard drive of the server. Okay, another one which is related more to the machines and replacement of the toner. So in a case that you are taking care of the fleet of your customers, definitely you would like to get some information about how your toner has been replaced, how many pages were produced using that toner cassette, so you can kind of expect what to do next, how much it will last. Of course, MyQ has the option to predict when the new toner should be replaced, but that's a completely different feature. This time, we will show you where the toner was exactly replaced and how many pages were printing on that. Let me just show you on an example how it works. So let's say we've got here a machine which misses its signed toner. That one was already used, and we would like to put here a new one. Now, what the MyQ will do now, whenever a new toner cassette is inserted into the system, it will automatically synchronize its records within the database and create a record like this. So we will have here a date and a time where the toner was installed. Same thing is where a toner is replaced. So, for example, the yellow toner no longer can be used, so we have just taken that off the machine. Same record like in the previous case, but this time for the replace table is marked. And at the same moment, an estimate of the pages that were printed for that toner cassette is also recorded into the database. So you know that on this date at 9:48, the estimate around 20,000 pages were printed for this toner cassette. And same thing as you expected, when new one is added here, new record is added. So the standard records for every toner cassette will be something like this: when it was installed, when it was replaced, and how many pages were printed using that toner cassette. So then you've got a perfect overview of how this has been used. Going for a new topic, and that's actually the most important highlight of version 10.1, and that's the new embedded terminal, which you will be able to use as part of this release. Let me just quickly highlight 4 most important things related to this embedded terminal. First one, which you can notice for the first sight, is the completely redesigned UI, which, of course, like in the previous versions, can be, again, using a theme editor or other themes we are providing together with the system, can be redesigned so you can have different colors, different icons. But we can also notice that there's a little facelift where all the icons are now rounded, and it's much smoother to use that. That will be minor one. More important is an option of a job preview. Now, in previous versions of MyQ X, you could use an option of a job preview where the file, whenever it has been sent to MyQ, was first analyzed and a PDF was created in the system. So if you are in the UI of the MyQ X, you could just click an icon and preview what is within the file. Nice feature if you are in front of a machine, if you are in front of your computer and you are checking what is actually being sent to the system. Not that nice when it comes to the printing. So if you have sent multiple different versions of the same file, it's nothing better than when you are in the machine to check which one of those is the correct one. And you can easily do it by tapping the preview icon. And as you can see here, you can just zoom here. And in the case that document had multiple pages, you will be able to just go and browse through all of those to identify which file is the right one, and you can release it after that. Another really important feature that has been added is the easy scan folder browsing. Now, like any other scan, this one is set to communicate either by the folder or structural folders, or it can be sent that it will send all the files into your cloud storage like a Box, OneDrive, Dropbox, Amazon S3, SharePoint Online, or the Google Drive. Now that was nice, but especially when it came to the cloud storages, in most of the cases, it just ended up in the root. Now with version 10.1, this is no longer the case because directly from the panel of the MFD, you can simply browse the connected storage. Doesn't matter if it's a cloud storage or if it's a folder. It will actually give you all the subfolders there. You will be able to select where you would like to scan the file and then just simply send it there. Same principle is then applied at another new feature called Easy Print, which works the way again that it's connected either to a cloud storage or to a folder, allowing you simply to just select the file and again print it directly from that storage directly on your machine. So if you have forgotten to send something to print, you can do it easily from the panel of the machine and the file will be converted and printed here on the device. As we are talking about the embedded terminals, there are a few that were added as part of the last year, but there's specifically one I would like to highlight here. And that's the embedded terminal we have developed for the new Epson AMC models. That does not mean that we would work only on these models. Of course, we cover a large variety of Epson machines, but what I would like to highlight here as part of this one that we work on these large generation AMC models, and you can use all the features of the MyQ X on these machines as part of the 10.1 release. Another big feature, which we have announced in February 2022, was the desktop client. Let me just show you a few things about the desktop client, and then I will go on. But before that, one important thing that previously, the desktop client was released only for the Windows environment. Actually, that was a Mac OS one, but it was something like a poor brother, missing all the nice features. It was pretty limited when it came to that. Now, as part 10.1, the MyQ X desktop client is available for both a Windows and a Mac OS, and it gives you all these nice features I will be talking about in a couple of seconds. First one, and I think that's the most important one when it comes to the MyQ desktop client, is the client spooling. Now, the client spooling is a feature that allows you to print locally without actually sending the file to the server. Ideal example for that would be that, for example, you've got a company which has multiple branches. You've got a main office, which is represented by the picture on the left, and there you've got some low bandwidth connection office, a small branch outside town with not the best connection, which where they would like to print, securely, but the connection, as it's not that stable and not that fast, it would take ages to send the file to the print server. Instead of that, they would just like to enjoy all the nice features of MyQ X while keeping the file in the local network. And that's exactly what the desktop client is doing. Simply spooling all the files locally. So that way, when that's done, only a metadata file is sent to the server, and the same thing is then sent to the machine. So let's say I will create a file here. It's a big one, contains a lot of graphics, few megabytes inside. Definitely do not want to wait for that file to come up there to the server and back to my machine. So I will just use the MDC, which will analyze the file, create the metadata file with information about my client, the host name of my computer, and details of the print job. That file then goes to the server, while my print job stays locally. And I just have to authenticate on the MFD that communicates with the server. The machine gets the metadata file and just simply downloads the print job from my machine there. Another thing could be, it could be actually a solution even for the same scenario for this distant office. And of course, it can be even combined with the previous option. And there's the failover printing. Because like I've mentioned before, the connection between these two offices might not be the most stable ones. So what this one does is, as you've probably guessed, it just uses the failover for a case that the server is not available. With the advantage that when the server is offline, we can just simply get a list of our machines I'm using the most. So as I'm working in my office, and if there are more than just one machine, the system automatically collects this information about the machines I'm using mostly. And that information is, of course, shared with the client that is stored on my computer. So when there's a situation when the connection to the server is interrupted for some reason, and not lost, the client will just pop up informing me that that's not possible to connect to the server, and I can just simply select one of these machines to print to them, because the client simply knows which machines I've been using. And as you can see, as part of the example here, for example, the Samsung unit is no longer available. So that way only 4 machines are remaining on the list, because the client itself not only gives us the option to select from these machines, but more important, if some of those is not reachable, it will just inform us about the status. And that way we can just simply print to that machine. Another important highlight of the MDC is then to monitor local print. So basically, when we have, for example, a hospital where a lot of small desktop units that are stationed on the desks of the doctors to print some necessary agenda, all these machines will be very hard to monitor. So we would not know, how many pages were there. We wouldn't be able to enforce any print rules. And that's exactly what the MDC can change. First, we will start with the local print monitoring. So whenever you will print, it goes through your local print queue. The advantage of the MDC is that it uses its own parser to analyze your file to give you all the details, including the name, a number of pages, and the format you have used. So whenever it's printed, even on the USB connected machine, this information is shared with the MyQ server and can then be reflected in reports that are sent regularly to your email or a folder. That will be one part of the charm. Much more important is the option to enforce print rules. So let's say I'm printing again, but this time certain print rule is set. Like, for example, that could be a quota that I will not be allowed to print more than, let's say, 50 pages a month, or in this case, 25. So as you can see, the file is stopped in a local print queue. The information is sent to the server, and as you can see, the quota status has been checked, and I'm no longer allowed to print. What the application will do, it will simply delete the job. So that way, even on the USB connected device, it will not reach the machine and will not be printed. So even on these small, cheap units, we can enforce our print rules. And that not only applies to quotas, but it could be any other print rules. It could be a quota, credit, or project. An important message you should also remember about that is that the client can be set into the mode that it actually gets these metadata about your printing preferences and printing options downloaded from the server and can work also in the offline mode. But that's not all. There are a few more things. The MDC can help you with the secure data printing in a case the IPPS is a no-go for your company. It can help you to detect the owner of the print job. So for example, if you are in the office without a domain or in a library where the computer is shared by many users, we can use the client to detect who's the owner of the print job. That could be something like a soft rules. So for example, instead of invoking the hard quota that will not let the user print, it will ask him like, do you really need this to be printed? And the user can decide if that should be printed or not. And of course, you as an admin are able to define multiple different rules for your users, so that way each of them might have slightly different ones. There's also an option to detect the print server. Imagine a company when there's multiple branches, and I'm a person that is responsible for action that has to be done on all these branches. And what is more annoying than just trying to find out the right printer in my computer to print to the exact local print server? Instead of that, the application can just do it for you based on the manifest that is loaded in the app, and that way, based on the network where you are, it will automatically detect to which server it should be sending the print jobs. But there are even more features which we don't have the time to cover all of those here. So if you'll be interested in more options, I would definitely recommend you to watch the recording of one of our previous webinars from last year. And you can find it on our company YouTube or in the training center. It's called The Best Way for You MDC of MyQ, and it covers all these features I've just briefly explained with much more details and actually showing them how those could be used in real life. So giving you all the stories and all the things you can solve by using the MDC. Now, what is the main thing you should remember from this part of a presentation is that we do have MDC as a very powerful tool. And now with 10.1, it's not only on Windows-based computers, but it's also available for the macOS users. Another highlight of the day will then be the mobile client. Now, when it comes to the mobile client, it's actually designed to help you to control your print jobs. So for example, if you're in a school, you can just upload your jobs from your mobile, you can play with it, you can just release it. Basically use your mobile as the release terminal. But there are more features that were added recently. One of them is that to report a problem. Imagine a situation that, for example, there's a dirty paper within the machine, or something is not working, it's folding the paper, things that the machine cannot detect on its own, and that way the notification part of MyQ would not be able to detect such a problem. And that can actually be solved using our mobile application, because there's an option to inform the admin about such situation. So for example, if the paper came out folded out of the finisher of the machine, I can just simply scan it, add a photo, add some comment, and send it directly to the admin of the system. And another option, because like I said, the mobile application is designed to allow you to print, there's another extension which is almost identical to the one which is on the machine, and that is that you will be able to preview your print jobs using the application. And that also pretty much covers all the new highlights I wanted to mention as part of the MyQ X. And we have to move to another topic, which are the new software assurance levels. Now, this is a big thing that will be coming out in a few months, few days. You'll be again notified with much more details about these new assurance levels. This should be just a sneak peek into what is coming soon. Now, as part of MyQ Roger and MyQ X, you're able to buy a standard MyQ assurance now. So basically, you have access to the knowledge base, a community access. In a case that there is a problem, you can open a case and a support guys will help you with these problems. And as part of the standard assurance, you can also get to the new version of the system and you can upgrade the system to a new one. Now, what we just wanted is basically to extend this basic package by some premium ones, which you will be able to buy for both MyQ Roger and MyQ X using our partner portal. Now, the first one is called Premium. And what it offers you is a remote support when our specialist will get there and will be able to help you with your problems every time you will encounter some, not only in a case that our support guys simply require that themselves. Another really big highlight of that is that for the critical and high severity cases, there will be a guaranteed response times, which will be much shorter than for the standard assurance. On top of that one, there's an option of a Premium Plus, which is really a Premium Plus package that not only includes even better response times and better resolution times, but also a periodic service health monitoring of your system, and more important, the 24/7 hotlines for critical incidents. So in a case that you would like to cover some very big account where it's necessary to be, to respond to critical cases as soon as possible, the 24/7 hotline is a solution for you. And as part of that, there's also a deployment assistance. And don't worry, even if your customer will be having the Premium Plus, all these services will be provided together with you, so you don't have to worry that you will not know what's happening at your customers. Now, when it comes to the new assurance plans, you will be able to order those using our partner portal. And when it will be available, we will, of course, inform you with much more details about the individual plans and options. Just one thing, even your current customers or customers that you are using now will be able to upgrade to these new assurance plans. Last highlight of today will be the MyQ Training Center update. Like I said, a minor thing, but a thing that might really help you. Now you know that the training center is designed to help you to get the latest knowledge about MyQ and all its components. Now in previous versions of the system, that was one annoying thing. So whenever you have passed a certain certification, you had to contact our support to get the actual confirmation that you did so. Now with this update, what you can do is simply to go to the overview of your certifications, select it, and now you've got two options there to print your certificate immediately. So as you can see, using the print icon here at the top of the screen or next to the actual learning you have passed, you can just press these options and the system will generate your certificate immediately, allowing you to download it directly in the PDF format. And that's also pretty much covers everything for today's presentation. So now it's the time for your questions. And I would like to encourage you again to use the QA icon, which is probably located in the top right corner of your screen. Through that, you can send us the questions, and I will now just focus on those, and I will try to answer as many as possible.